Welcome, everyone, to our Frontline Voices series, HaEmet initiative. HaEmet means truth in Hebrew, and that is what we all need to be striving towards. And I want to begin by thanking my friends and family for joining us today. It means the world to me. 2 years and a day ago, Jewish people experienced their worst day since the Holocaust. To help us understand what happened that day, what's happened since, and what is to be done now, we've got two guests who have devoted their lives to making the world a better, safer place for Jews and therefore everyone, Eitan Chitayat and Leyb. Welcome.
Good to be here. Okay.
Great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll start with a little introduction for Eitan. Eitan's the founder of I'm That Jew, a global movement empowering Jews everywhere to proudly embrace their identity. Through storytelling, media, and community building, he's built a united, visible Jewish future. Since October 7th, he's focused his creative energy on reclaiming the Jewish narrative and fighting anti-Semitism worldwide. His work has reached hundreds of thousands of followers, hundreds of millions of views, and beyond advocacy, Eitan is a seasoned branding expert with almost 30 years of experience working with top global brands from his agency in Tel Aviv, which I understand, Eitan, you've largely set aside for this work, right?
Yeah, pretty much. We're at 5% of real work. 95% is I'm That Jew.
Right, and it used to be maybe 90% of real work and 10% I'm That Jew, right?
Yeah, flipped it basically 95 to 5, and now we flipped it.
Yeah, amazingly commendable. It's something this is why we need you, Eitan. I'm gonna introduce Noy now. Noy is a Canadian-Israeli entrepreneur and IDF reservist. On October 7th, you dropped everything, your company in New York. He immediately flew to Israel and served over, and at this point you've served over 300 days on the front lines in Gaza fighting Hamas and Lebanon fighting Hezbollah with your elite commando unit. Since then, you've dedicated your life to Jewish advocacy, leading strong voices for Israel. Through this work, you bring IDF soldiers and survivors of October 7th to communities across North America, educating and equipping audiences to fight anti-Semitism and misinformation. With tens of thousands of followers, you continue to raise awareness while preparing to return to active duty. What an amazing thing you've done. It's what I said. I said, I can't, I said, when October 7th happened, I said, I can't fight. There's not, this is not something I can do, but you dropped everything and you risked your life for this.
It's an honor to be able to do that. I think that putting on the green uniform is something that everyone wants to do, but certain percentage of us are lucky to, and the others are, do what they can wherever they are. So it's my honor.
Excellent. I want to begin by sharing something I looked up on ChatGPT. I said, how many wars has Hamas perpetrated against Israel? And it came up with, well, depends how you define war. Is it, just shooting rockets at playgrounds or, I don't know what. They came up with 5 wars. With the last one starting on 2 years and a day ago, of course. I also then said, when was this terrorist organization democratically elected and what was their platform? And it said 2005 by 77% of the population. They started their first war the next year, or in 08, actually. 2006 and then 08, I'm sorry. And their platform was openly anti-Semitic, going back to their charter from 1988 that said basically they wanted to destroy Israel and they didn't recognize it as a state, and they were going to continue to have an armed resistance, even though there were no Israelis in Gaza after 2005. What is going on? Can you explain this, Eitan?
Well, I can try. First of all, I want to thank you, Ben, and your team for putting this together. It's very, very much appreciated. Hello to everyone. And as I wore the green uniform when I was a little younger. I'm around half of Noy's age, but there were plenty of people fighting, and people here on this call are fighting too. So So appreciate that. What is going on? Well, basically, in simple terms, what we're talking about beyond the physical war is how we got to the physical war is through a narrative loss. Now, most people will think of the narrative as being lost today. And of course, we all see that. But narratives take a long time to build up. And narratives need to be invested in. It's how Nike became what it is and Apple became what it is. It's how some of the leading brands in the world are household names is because they were consistent. So basically what happened, I think, was like after literally the day after October 7th, that's when we were exposed to the painful costs of no strong Jewish brand or narrative. And what little we had was hijacked by the enemies of the Jewish people spreading lies about who we are. Now, this isn't something that happened by accident. This is not just because of what's going on now. This is a premeditated, strategic, well-funded, consistent narrative war that exploded. And much to the surprise of the global Jewish population. And without a strong brand, which is based on truth, which is based on who we are, then this is what happens. And what I'm trying to do with I'm That Jew is I'm building the Jewish narrative to reclaim it with stories that land, with content that connects, with showing up physically, much like Noy does, like we both do, showing up physically to galvanize the troops, meaning our people, and also build bridges with our allies through reason, through emotion, through humanity, one person at a time. And it's the lack of doing that that has led to all of this, because without that narrative loss, the reaction wouldn't have been what it is, and it would have been much more difficult to get people on board. But because we didn't invest in storytelling and we didn't invest in a consistent mode of engagement consistently all the time when times are good, also for the last 15, 20, even 30 years, this is where we are.
So October 6th, we had peace. October 7th, we had war. We all knew it. October 8th, the world celebrated and Jews were horrified. Was that a surprise to you?
No, I mean, I've been involved in this narrative world and trying to sound the alarm for around 15 years. As you so eloquently said at the beginning, it's always been a passion project. I've always tried to represent wherever I go. Some of the work that I've done that some people are familiar with was seen around 15 million times. But in the last 2 years, it's jumped to 300 million times because there is a strong need and a hunger and a desire from Jewish people to show people who we really are. So it wasn't a surprise to me, to be honest, with the savagery of Hamas 7th was, but the cooking, the fermenting, the bubbling over of this hatred that we see now. Both Noy and I have known each other for quite a few years, and we've even collaborated and worked together in the past. Years ago, we were seeing this percolating in Facebook groups, on Twitter, something that people have now discovered as the norm, but we were watching it grow and grow and grow with no answer. Oh, we're Startup Nation, we'll be fine. So it wasn't a surprise, and we have a lot of work to do.
Okay. Should we, we've got a couple of audio visuals. Should we share some of your, you just tell us when you'd like to share maybe one of your videos so we can see how you're reshaping the narrative. Would you like to do that now, or I can go further into it?
Sure. I mean, maybe I can. I mean, if we're talking about, if I'm speaking right now, and of course, Noy, maybe you jump in, or maybe when I'm done, I'll give a little bit of an intro, a little bit more of what it is that I'm doing, and then maybe we can show a little piece and maybe do the same with Noy, whatever you guys feel. But basically, I'm almost 55. As you said, I've been building brands for almost 30 years. I've worked with directly with Apple in Cupertino, California. We launched Gmail in Africa. We've worked with Facebook. We've launched Gmail, did Google Space Labs, and worked with Startup Nation. And what I'm trying to do right now in this moment in time is to build a movement which is based around strengthening the Jewish community for the Jewish community to speak up, grassroots. And that means creating content that lands with Jews and our allies. It means showing up at campuses, going to schools, going to different countries. It looks like social media, but social media is a means to an end. It's not to get likes. The idea is to inspire people to speak up, and doing that by showing up. So what you'll see in the clip that Ben has is a short piece that I made. I returned around a month ago from Australia, where I was there. I was invited by the community. Over the course of 3 weeks, I was at 25 speaking engagements, from synagogues to law offices, to schools, to colleges, all in the spirit of arming people with strength, with facts, with solidarity. And when you show up physically and you express, it's profound the effect that has on people on the ground.
Are financially solid in this era.
So I think that that's something that that you could show. At the moment, the objective of HaEmet Jew is to continue growing. We would like to, now we have around 215,000 followers on social media. We're trying to raise quite a sum, $2.5 million. We're trying to increase the followers from 215 to 500 by 2026, and increase the creative output to more films, more series that we've been putting out that are being seen tens of millions of times, to continue an animated poster campaign, which is bold and colorful and loud and proud, to celebrate the Jewish people and arm people with how to talk about themselves, and to continue with the speaking tours, whether it's in Canada, the States, South Africa, Australia again, the UK, wherever is needed. And we're going to be building more digital marketing and strategic partnerships with other organizations. That's in it in a nutshell. And I don't know, maybe you can see a little bit of the film, which is a little bit of a personal summary as to the achievements. And I think that you'll see from the footage the impact that we had.
Right. I think we have a bit of your recent Australia trip. Is that right?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, it's a very informal film. Just wanted to show the humanity behind it, because that's really important.
Terrific. Let's go ahead. Franca, if you could share the video.
I came to Australia from Israel, where days before I flew, I was still running to bomb shelters. I spent time in Sydney, the Opera House, the harbour, walking Bondi along the sea, watching people go by and koalas sleeping, feeding kangaroos and wallabies. I had open conversations with my Jewish family in boardrooms, synagogues, schools, homes, and community centres, and have felt their strength even when they haven't felt their strength. I met with university students at Orgeous events, talked with high schoolers at Moriah College, shared a whirlwind day in Melbourne with the students of Scopus who filled me with pride, purpose, and hope. I spent time with the parents' associations from 5 Melbourne schools who came together as one. I joined a Shabbaton for just a few hours in Adelaide, met the Jewish community in Perth, and felt their fire. I even joined Iranians fighting for their country's freedom from afar. And everywhere, warmth. Hugs from strangers that didn't feel strange. Old friends, new friends, brothers, sisters, and beautiful allies. Shabbat dinners in beautiful homes with beautiful people. Open conversations with random Muslim, Indian, and Christian Australians I openly spoke to who, while not Jewish, cared deeply when we spoke and wanted to learn more about us. I came to give all I've got, but I've been filled up. I've carried Israel with me, and I'm leaving with Australia in my heart. This country may be a million miles away, but when you're with your people, you're close. You're right there with them. They're your family, and you're theirs too. So to every Jew around the world, wherever you are, you're not alone, you've got your peeps. And when we show up and come together in real life, we are an unstoppable force, despite what the media shows. Australian Jewish community, know that, and keep showing up exactly as you are. Thank you for this experience, and thank you for inspiring me. It's all of us together. G'day.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Eitan. I know that, you know, you've got shirts, and I don't know if we can see this, but I'm going to try to show you what I have on my phone still. I'm that Jew, which, guess what? It starts conversations. There you go. It's so easy. And you flip your phone down because, you know, you like to flip your phone down so you don't see it. And it's just so, unapologetically, I'm that Jew. And it starts a conversation, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, I think the power of I'm That Jew is the simplicity. And when I go on tour, I take, you know, thousands of shirts, stickers, and the idea is try it out. See what it's like when you put it on your phone. See what it's like to walk around your house wearing an I'm That Jew shirt before you muster up the courage to walk out with it. And 99.9% of the time, it's overwhelmingly positive. It's people who come up to you saying, you know, I'm not Jewish, but I really like your shirt. Or people say, what does that mean? Or people say, oh, I'm Jewish, and a bond kind of like is created in the moment. But what it really does is it empowers you. It empowers you to be more vocal about your identity, because it's a very difficult thing to go in and to just start talking about the conflict. But what happens is when you are saying I'm that Jew, which is you can be an entrepreneur Jew, or you can be a parent at home Jew, you can be a soldier, you can be an athlete, you can be a musician, you can be left or right, you can be Sfaradi or Ashkenazi, you can be on this continent or another continent, but you're Jewish. So it's very inclusive, and that's one of the values. And I think that when people wear I'm That Jew, and I don't mean just physically, they wear their identity somehow on their sleeve, you inevitably get to the values of the Jewish people. And then it trickles down to the uncomfortable conversations which people get to and be like, well, does what you're seeing make sense that it aligns with our values? Something isn't right. Something isn't adding up.
Something doesn't add up.
Yeah, so the idea, though, is the conversation starter in the public space and in the online space, because it's so positive, it's not about being Israeli. It's about being Jewish. And you can bring in the Israel story to it as well. But it's a conversation starter, and it's amazing how many people who are not Jewish want to wear the shirt and come to us and say, we want to wear the shirt. We're that Jew too. Yeah.
Amazing. That's beautiful. I'm going to turn to Noy. Noy, you've done some amazing things in just getting out there. I mean, obviously there's social media, but there's like in person is so powerful. And so with Strong Voices for Israel, your organization have taken it outside to churches, schools, other faith communities. Why does it matter right now? And what kind of feedback are you hearing from these groups? How's it changing the conversation about Israel?
So it's nice to meet everyone. Thanks for being here. And Eitan, love the work that you're doing. When I served in Gaza for 4 months in the beginning of the war, and when I got out, all I wanted to do was go and speak to other Jews, to uplift them, to tell them my story. I was in Gaza and I saw this, and I fought Hamas terrorists, and I helped these Palestinian civilians, and I was really out there. And when I went and I enjoyed myself, I realized that most of the Jewish organizations are focusing on Jews, which is important. Don't get me wrong, I also do it. But there's a whole other world that isn't being spoken to. At the beginning, Eitan spoke about all the work that the other side was doing. You know, I've been doing advocacy for almost 10 years. And 10 years ago, I saw the Students for Justice in Palestine groups going to different types of students, even to Jewish students, and starting to plant the seeds of what's going on. And that's why on October 8th, 2023, you saw everyone stand for Palestine, not just Muslims, but you saw many Christians, Koreans, Chinese, you saw Jews standing for Palestine. That was years and years of work. And I realized that, all right, we got to speak to our allies as well. So since I made the shift of focusing not just on Jews, but both on Jews and Christians, the feedback has been very powerful. When I come into a church, a Christian school, a school that has Jews and Christians, I meet people from across the spectrums. Some support Israel, and many don't because of the stuff they've seen online. When I go there, my goal isn't to get them from being anti-Israel to pro-Israel. No, I want to ask them questions and I confuse them. And when that consistency of the confusion, wait, hold on a second. Let me ask myself. That's where my power is, because they hear about all these different stories that IDF soldiers are like this. And all of a sudden, instead of politics, they get humanity, just like Eitan says, we're humanizing the conflict. And that's when people are very confused as like, what's going on? Because they're getting a different truth. I think that this moment of confusion is very important for me. And that's really where the real change begins in my work.
And it's interesting how you're seeing the confusion as an opportunity.
Capitalize on that.
Right, for change. It's an agent of change. You often talk about changing the tone of Jewish and pro-Israeli advocacy, pro-Israel advocacy. What kind of messaging do you believe works today and what doesn't?
So I'm a firm believer that what doesn't work today is apologizing. I feel like for many years in that quiet moment, we've approached advocacy in a way that is really like defending and explaining ourselves and proving our right to exist and proving it doesn't work anymore.
I do it so often and it's so unfulfilling.
Yeah. I mean, look, like it doesn't matter that, all the facts. The San Remo conference happened in this year and the Balfour Declaration, and we received it doesn't matter. We as Jews and allies need to speak proudly, not defensively. We have to show that Israel is not just, responding to hate, but it's like our values, our moral clarity and ethics. Even look at Eitan. I'm that Jew. It's like a proud statement. And for us to go and say like, this is the land of the Jewish people. We are fighting against these monsters. When I speak to both Christians and Jews, I remind them that advocacy, I'm not trying to convince people to love Israel. I'm teaching them why we love Israel. In that shift from being super defensive to being confident in what you're saying is what gains respect a lot of the times also from the other side. In the Middle East here, the strength is what wins. And when you stand super proud as a Jew, as an ally, as a supporter of the truth, people respect that.
It's
I think
amazing.
There's one more thing, if I may, I want to add to what Noy says, and Noy's doing terrific work, of course. And it's something that from the world of branding, what we say to companies a lot is, yes, they will remember your product, but the people who might use your product, they'll remember what you made them feel. And what's the most important thing? Of course, it's important to be factual, and you have to speak with facts, and we do. But I think that what Noy and I are trying to do, in a similar way, like I speak to the Jewish base and also to allies, and he speaks to allies and the Jewish base, but we speak with humanity. We want people to remember when I've left, I was in a mob in Concordia with 400 crazy students, but I still remember the people who, at the end of it, I took them to the side and I said, I'm a dad. I'm a Jew. I'm an Israeli. I served in the army. Let's have a conversation. They'll remember that when they're on their own. So it's so important to speak with people with humanity, but also what Noy was saying, which is confidence and conviction in your identity that you own, and to remind Jewish people and our allies that we own it. And that's the correction that we have to make at scale. We have to make that correction at scale, because that is the only way to start turning this thing around, for us to start showing people that we are not the label apartheid lover or genocide baby killer or white colonializer. We're actually fathers and sons and brothers and sisters and mothers and daughters and grandparents, all of that stuff. And we're proud of our values. And maybe you should see where things are not adding up through conversation. So I strongly believe that what Noy was saying, which is literally empathy and humanity, is a pillar of how we need to approach it, including the facts and confidence as well.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I'll say you helped inspire me to wear my kippah. I wear it in the city of Chicago here all the time. Obviously, a kippah is common in Israel, but it's not common in the city of Chicago. And I would say that, you know, you helped give me that courage. I haven't had one negative experience. Not one. It's all positive. It's just like when you wear that I'm That Jew shirt through the airport and people come up and hug you. I mean, I'm literally getting the same kind of reactions from Jews and non-Jews. And it's really wonderful, actually, to just be a proud Jew. This reminds me of my faith at all times. That's what it means to me. Okay, so I'm proud of that. You know, let's go to, you know, speaking of, I think this is a good seg to one of our topics is, you know, you've said that I'm That Jew is designed to help us not hide. What do you mean by hiding?
Look, I mean, I'm That Jew is, like I said, it's inclusive. It allows you to say whatever you want to say. I'm that water polo on a Saturday is Jew. You know, that just shows that you like water polo, and you'll go and you'll play it on the weekend, just like someone else. Like, I'm that Jew, I'm that you. It's showing us as people, and that doesn't mean that everyone's going to feel comfortable wearing the shirt, but you can not hide your identity by finding ways to be I'm That Jew. For example, you might be at the office and there's 12 people in a conference room and everyone's talking about where they're going for their vacation. Now, in that moment, you know that you're going to Israel. Are you going to say it?
Or are you going to say, you can say, you know, I say sometimes I'm going to Tel Aviv. Because the impression of Tel Aviv is so positive.
Yeah, but think about how many times people want to hide their identity, or if they want to leave or not go to work, or maybe at school on a certain day, but it's a Jewish holiday, and they just say, I'm taking a day off, as opposed to saying, I'm taking the day off because it's Rosh Hashanah, or I am going to Israel, or whatever it is. So hiding your identity is not necessarily, you know, just wearing something. It's having the audacity to say what you're actually doing, like anyone else would. So I'm That Jew strengthens people to just say, well, I'm Jewish, you know, and then the response is usually, oh, wow, okay, tell me about that. Tell me about why you're going away, or what is Shabbat meal, or I've never been to Israel, or what do you think of the politics of the Middle East? It can be that too. But when you hide your identity, what you do as a human being, it's the worst thing that you can do, because you feel like shit. You know, when you don't say who you are in that room with your friends, with your colleagues, you're hiding your identity, and there's a real trauma there. But saying it empowers you, inspires other people to be empowered by you, empowers you to empower your children, just by saying it and having the confidence to be it openly. And that's the mission, to not hide your identity. Of course, I'm not talking about life-threatening situations, you know, but for the most part, to be able to say who you are is a value, and it's a Jewish value. So hiding your identity, which is a very real thing right now and understandable for many people, I'm That Jew, through grassroots and amplification of the message, is to start to change that paradigm. And the more of us that do it, the more allies will see it, the more building of bridges that will happen as well.
We're getting our first, I'm going to change up a little bit here. We're getting our first question from our audience, from my friend Barry, who said to me once, you know, there was peace on October 6th. I'll never forget that, Barry. are you, you have a question for Eitan or Noy?
More of a comment than a question. And Eitan, I was following you on LinkedIn long before 2 years ago. So
Wow.
thank you so very much. I find for myself, I don't refer to myself as Jewish. I refer to myself as a Jew. And sometimes to Gentiles, it's a little bit shocking, but I do that purposely in order to let them know that, in my feeling, Jewish is kind of a Jew. But when I say I'm a Jew, it's a little bit shocking, and I try to do that purposely. And so I appreciate what you're doing, Eitan, and Noy as well. Nice to meet you and all of the other Altman clients and friends.
Thank you, Barry, for
It's great,
sharing
great,
that.
and thank you. I mean, it's so important. I don't know. I think I got unmuted, but I
Sorry.
really commend what you're doing, and also I think we have nothing to hide. We have nothing to hide, so we have to act like we have nothing to hide because we have nothing to hide. We haven't been trained to say it. We haven't been pushed by some organizing body to come out and say it. That work has been done by influencers like Noy and myself and many others that you're familiar with, but it has to be taken from us into the real world. And that's the real objective, to actually say it and to have those uncomfortable conversations, because look at what happened when we were comfortable. We have to be uncomfortable for a while.
But
Right,
I've been saying for years that Israel as a country has the worst public relations of anything, and our opponents have the best. And this is kind of refreshing, as here is a start to start attacking that. But this is a big rock to push up a big hill.
I actually like to learn from our opponents. You know, like you look at what they've been doing in the universities for the past 25 years. They're infiltrating. That's sort of what I'm trying to do. I'm starting to try to infiltrate the other non-Jewish groups, and going back to what you're saying about saying I'm a Jew instead of I'm Jewish. And we've
Right.
heard it a couple of times here, like the same thing. You look at Ben, he's like, you know, I wore a kippah for the first time and I keep on wearing it. You know, when I was living in New York, I I'm not an extremely religious person, but I just put on a kippah. I know it's New York, but I put on a kippah on the subway and I wear my necklace on my chin like this, and I'm waiting for people to talk to me, to ask me. People don't. I feel like once you do that first time, then it's like, okay, it's actually not that bad. Exactly like Ben said. But in terms of Israel being the worst PR, I mean, that's what I do. What I do. That's why Eitan's doing what he's doing. I think that
Right.
the nonprofit world is
It's a grassroots effort, and we
very
have to step
different.
up.
Yeah, very different than the for-profit world. On October 6th, I had a startup in New York. I was raising money. It was great. Eitan had his business, like, but the meaning that you get out of this when you're able to influence people and to touch them is very impactful. And if like the Israeli government is focusing on or not doing a good job, then we'll do the job for them. Very simple.
Yeah, I actually agree. I think that the solution is going to come from the private sector, from people who are physically doing the work and who are committed to it, not as something that is, I can tell you that what I've given up, and I'm a big boy, I'm not looking for any sympathy. I gave it up. It was a choice that I made, and I make it every day because I see this as an existential threat to my children, that we need to start arming people with their voice, because as Noy said before, not only do our enemies respect it, but our allies respect it. But ultimately, we respect ourselves more when we challenge ourselves to speak up for who we are. And this is how to avoid wars. Like literally, the more noise that you can make and show people your moral clarity, that you are a people built on values, which are family and hard work, and contributing to your own community and contributing to the outside community, contributing to the world. Religion and how it's the bedrock, even if you're not religious, for your morals. People don't know these things about us. But when you say it, and you imagine what an army we would have if we got millions upon millions upon millions of Jews to do this in the real world, then all of these Jews would become advocates for something, for causes that are not just about being open with your identity, getting involved with real activism. If you're a lawyer, lawyering up and contributing to what you can contribute as a fighter in that field. Education, making sure that Jewish children are imbued with Jewish values and that they speak it. That's why I have a lot of hope as well. And I know Noy agrees with me on this, is this period that we've gone through in the last couple of years has given birth to the silver lining, has given birth to real fighters, people who are not willing to compromise their identity. The problem is there's no body owning that. There's no organization that's pushing narrative. And that's what HaEmet Jew is going to try and do, specifically on narrative, and to actually bring people like Noy and other people doing such important work like Noy together, so that we have
It's
that
brilliant.
structure.
We're all on the same team. We're all on the same team, right? I don't know, Steve, you're off mute. Did you want to add something?
Yes, I'm very interested in what both of you gentlemen feel about the Trump effort to settle the current crisis, and how do you think that affects the narrative that you want to have with other people?
Thank you, Steve, for your question.
I can start off. Look, I'm a very optimistic and hopeful person, much more on October 6th, but I think the question isn't about when are we going to end the war. It's about, how are we going to end the war? I was in Gaza several times. I saw who Hamas is. I saw what they think. I saw their literature. I saw how they're wired, and they don't want peace with the Jews. Even if the hostages do come home, it doesn't mean that it's the end of the war. You don't think that they're going to keep on building tunnels? You don't think that they're going to want to keep on doing another October 7th, God forbid? I think that a lot of people are so hopeful for this deal and it's going to change everything, but Hamas hasn't agreed to anything. They said we want to change a couple things. They said that we're okay to give back the hostages, but we're not going to give up our weapons and our status. No. So
That's not it's really simple. It's return the hostages and lay down your weapons.
but why would they do that? Hamas has been fighting. Why would they give up the hostages? Why would they let go of their weapons? They have nothing left. It's literally defeating someone.
That's what they have.
Why would they do that? Let's think realistically here. I want the hostages more home than everything. I wear this necklace.
Right. As we saw.
So to wrap my feelings up, I think that the situation is going to go on for a very long time. It's going to take a few different generations for us to create change. And again, on October 6th, they still hated us. They still wanted to kill us. They were just collecting information on the kibbutzim and preparing for the war than actually fighting.
Yeah, literally with workers that were coming in to have a living, giving data, right?
Yeah, I'd actually like to also address Stephen's question, which is when I talk about, I have my own political opinions in my work. I don't talk too much about politics because I don't believe in right or left. I believe in right or wrong. And you can have a Netanyahu doing terrible things, and he can also be doing very good things. The polarization of this world where even Jewish people cannot talk about the situation without it becoming political is something that I avoid, because what ultimately can bring us together, and I don't just mean the Jewish people with our allies, are a set of values. And one of the values which is foundational to the Jewish people is the ability to debate, the ability to engage in dialogue, which is what Noy does on campus, and I do it as well, and to have those conversations so that we can move away from the polarization and And we're seeing that between right and left. We see it in Israel, we see it in America, we see it in England, we see it in Australia, we see it everywhere. And we're paying the price for that polarization. So what we need to do is we need to, I believe, talk about the good things that maybe Trump is doing, talk about the things that are not good that Trump is doing, the same thing with Netanyahu, but also that's not the conversation. The conversation is what is the right thing to do? Where is the morality? And it's also in fighting truth, fighting for truth. When you're faced with these people who have been brainwashed, they don't think they're lying. They don't think they're bad people. They're not bad people. They're good people. You know, a lot of the ones who have been brainwashed are good people. So I try and keep an open mind with them as well, just like I try and keep an open mind with politicians, that the nuance, and it's not black or white, living in the gray and talking about the gray and talking about who we are as people and what values we want. Are you really against the Jewish people? Because the last time we've checked all the facts, the Jewish people are a decent people that contribute a lot to humanity. So going back to the Trump thing, it's very divisive. So if you can talk about it without talking about it, that's what I try and do.
I think Sarah and Hollis had questions, but
that's great advice. I'm going to turn to Sarah first here and Hollis next. Sarah, I'm going to bring you. There you go.
First of all, Eitan and Noy, thank you for everything you do. I know how much energy it takes just to survive in baseline. So the amount of energy that it takes to be pushing and pushing nonstop is beyond anything I can imagine. So just acknowledging that. My question and reflection, I guess, when I look at the where things have gone, to me, it's so much more than like a failure on the PR front. What I see is a normalization of dehumanizing the Jewish people, and the things that people are saying about Jews openly could never be said about another group of people, and are things that the KKK would be ashamed to say out loud and would never, say. So my question is kind of like, I mean, that's why I love I'm Not Jew, because we're rehumanizing Jewish people. But you both mentioned that you kind of saw this happening in the past. How did it become okay to call people you don't know Zio-Nazis and child killers, and like, it's just so extreme.
I think that when no, you're okay with if I take the first one on this?
Right.
Okay. I think that when it's a great question. I think that language is important. I'm a man of words. I'm a writer, and one of my favorite business cards had a every word counts on it, and when we allow the definition of things to change, like what is a Zionist? It's not what they say it is. What is a genocide? It's not what they say it is. What is apartheid? It's not what they say it is. And these are or colonization. It's also not what they say it is. These things, as Noy said to you before, he was seeing this 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I was seeing this, as again, I'm a little older. I've been seeing this for 20 years. There have been documentaries made about how the young are indoctrinated with hate through words by allowing lies to remain unanswered and to let it slide. That's how you get here. If you go back to the Palestinian movement 15 years ago, if you go back to BDS, if you go back to Justice for Students in Palestine, if you go back to these movements, they also had 1,000 followers 20 years ago. But what they did was they had a narrative. It was very strategic. It was funded, and it was consistent. And all they needed to do was repeat. If you repeat a lie long enough, then eventually people will believe it. And that's what has happened. Not only do the Jewish people not have their own narrative, but the Jewish people, and I'm talking about Jewish leadership and Jewish organizations and the Israeli government, and I'm not here to shit on anyone, I'm just saying this is what happened. Not only are they lying, there is also no narrative that we have that is our own. So there's no counter narrative, and there's no ownership of our own narrative. When you let that slide, then this is what you get. And we let it slide, Jewish organizations let it slide. Jewish leadership that knew that this was happening let it slide. Israeli governments, left, right, center, everyone let it slide. And this is what happens. One person at a time, the truth is taken over by lies. And that's why we have, as you said before, Stephen, this massively uphill battle to fight now. But at least we're starting it. And the funding needs to go to people who know how to do this. And I think that that's critical. Not people who are just in it because they like likes, but people who are dedicated to making a difference on the ground for generations to come, which is exactly what you said, Sarah. It's a lot of work. But that's how we got here. When the world says nothing and we say nothing, this is what you get. And we said nothing.
Right. I'm going to turn to whoever's available, either Frank or Hollis. Who'd like to come on? Frank, I have a question for you, and Hollis, I have a question for you too. And I know, Hollis, you have a question for us.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a question, but and I appreciate what you all are doing. I'm a faculty member at City University of New York. I'm part of the University Faculty Senate. I'm proud member of our union, and yet I don't know if people know how much is happening in New York City, especially in the university system. But I mean, wear I'm a Zionist T-shirt around New York City. See what happens. I wouldn't do it. I've got a T-shirt that's got, the physical state, the outline of Israel with a big Jewish star on it. No way would I wear that in this town. No way. And I'll tell you something else. I cannot say I'm part of the Academic Freedom Committee. So I don't want to go into all the details, but there's a lot of intersection here. For some reason, our union and people have to make comments about Israel and what's happening in Gaza. I'm not sure what that has to do with the university, but they do. I cannot get up and say I'm a Zionist at CUNY. And it's not about being Jewish. There's a ton of Jews in this system who are anti-Israel. And so I'm stuck, is my point. I don't have a question.
So
I'm completely paralyzed.
Here's the bit that no one likes to tell you, okay? But you know this. If we continue on this trajectory, this will continue, and it'll get worse and worse and worse. The cavalry aren't coming, Hollis. You're the cavalry. Now, of course, you can't get up and say, I'm a Zionist today. But funnily enough, you should mention Zionism. I don't know if you know Einat Wilf. I'm working on a very big piece with her about redefining Zionism. Imagine a world in a few years' time where it gets better because there were more Jewish speakers coming to campus, because allies in your university started understanding, because things started changing in the long run, that there were no more Hamas demonstrations allowed and encampments allowed. This is a process. The change will not happen today, but it will certainly not happen if we don't get started. When you build a brand, one of the first things, and I'll just say this very quickly, one of the first things that the CEO says, can you measure the ROI in the $100,000 or $200,000 that we're going to spend on the branding? And the answer is no, not immediately, because I can build the perfect brand for you. But if you don't show up to implement it, to make sure your employees know what your company stands for, what your products are about, if you don't build your audience with strategic, visionary, and consistent funded messaging, then your brand will crumble to the ground. This takes work. The reason why you can't stand up and say what Zionism is today is because no one has done that work. No one has made that a priority. But if you start making it a priority, then more people at campus will know, more of the faculty will be educated. Certain people will not be hopefully allowed to work at the campus. Jewish people, now, of course, I'm not saying it's easy. It takes a lot of time. Some Jewish people can be unindoctrinated, but this requires exactly what we're talking about. More speaking, more talking, more materials, and it will take time.
I want to add quickly, number one, Hollis, next time I'm in New York, happy to be your bodyguard so you can proudly wear that shirt.
Woo!
I know the
And you can even wear mine.
Yeah,
which I wear all the time.
I'll bring
Awesome.
you.
And I'll wear it with you, Hollis.
I I know the Cooney and Sunni systems pretty well, but I just want to tell you a quick story. I was in Dearborn, Michigan, 4 months ago. For those who know, quite the Muslim population. And what I've been doing is that I take a table, I have a big sign that says I'm an IDF soldier, ask me anything. And I wanted to change it up a little bit. So again, 4 months ago, I changed the sign to I'm a Zionist, ask me a question. And to my surprise, and maybe not to yours, the reaction was way worse. Like it was much worse to be a Zionist than it was to be an IDF soldier. And I didn't understand why. I was like, what is wrong with being a Zionist? The homeland of the Jewish people, it's not that crazy. And through the conversations I had with people who were yelling at me and swearing at me, exactly what Eitan said, they didn't know what Zionism was. They don't know what it is. I asked them, what is Zionism to you? Zionism means that every Jew wants to kill every Palestinian. Zionism means that Jews want to flatten Gaza. And ask them, I'm like, where did you learn this? And for them, it was like me telling them that the sky is red, that this isn't what Zionism is. They just didn't know what it was, and it was very hard for them to believe me. I would show them definitions, encyclopedia, dictionary. I would show them many definitions, and they just didn't believe me. So I think that maybe today, I mean, we're on the same people, but for your job security, for your, surrounding, maybe today you can't say I'm a Zionist, but you can say it without saying it and eventually lead to it. I'm a proud supporter of the state of Israel, of the Jewish people. You can talk in different ways that will show, and I understand that it's hard. It's easy for me to just stay here and tell you you should be doing this and you should be doing that. You're the one in this situation. At the end of the day, everyone leaves and you're the only one there meant to deal with all that, that around you. But kind of like Eitan said, I'm a very firm believer of someone having to say something, and it might cost you some friends and colleagues, but they weren't your friends to begin with. That's what I've learned.
Can I suggest, Ben, that we
Yes,
either
please.
both of these speakers give us some talking points? I think one of the things that's lacking in it, that I get from my non-Jewish friends, is the horror at what is happening in Gaza in terms of the results. And I think it would be very helpful to have a more disciplined response than I have in terms of justifying the current situation.
To add on to what Stephen just said, we're getting towards the end of the hour. What is the call to action from this call?
I have one that I'll share. Barry. Before we do that, I wanted to ask one of my friends, Frank, to come on. Frank, are you able to come off mute there?
Yeah, so it's really nice to meet you, Noy and Eitan. I appreciate it. I'm a non-Jew, so this is super interesting for me and totally gives me a new perspective. I have been noticing, as an openly gay man, I've been noticing a lot of Queers for Palestine and that whole movement, and I just kind of find it to be a little strange. I've seen, people online compare it to sort of like, chickens for KFC. So if, I was just curious to see if you could shed some light on, why you think people are so quick to defend someone who has no interest in people like myself.
People believe what they want to believe. Eitan, do this?
No,
People
go
believe what they
go
wanna-
ahead. You go first.
I know we're on time, so I'll be quick. People believe what they want to believe. There was a very amazing interview where someone went up to a person who was gay and said, listen, Hamas, they don't like gay people. They kill gay people. They told them all the points that you and I know. And they said, well, I still support them because supporting them is right. People are brainwashed. It's like a thing, a trend to be anti-Israel or anti-Zionist right now. And when your favorite influencer, whether it's that, Matt XIV, who's a very, popular gay influencer, or any of the Hollywood stars besides Michael Rappaport and a few others, you just do what's right, what you think is right. You don't need to know what's really going on, what they will do to gay men in Gaza, what they will do to minorities in Gaza. You don't need to know because it doesn't matter. Yesterday, Greta Thunberg shared a picture showing how bad it was for the Palestinians in Gaza and their suffering. And in one of the pictures was Evyatar David, an Israeli hostage. So people
Emancipated completely.
like her, how millions of followers, like people believe what they think is right, what they want to believe, and who their favorite influencers online are sharing. And that makes the work for Eitan and I much harder, but that's what we got to do. Eitan, I'll pass to you. I know we're on time.
Yeah, I think that I think what you said is correct. Look, people in today's day and age, it's not like when we grew up 30 years ago or 50 years ago even, or even 10 years ago. The world has changed. What you consume is what you believe for the most part. And, people who subscribe to, Queers for Palestine, what the most ridiculous thing is that you have people who don't understand that that the values of the people that they're supporting are absolutely against them, and when that happens in another country, but it happens in your country, and you start seeing it, it's going to affect you, because when the definitions change and they can't support this and this and this about you, but they can support genocidal, psychopathic, jihadi terrorists. That they can do. Then how can the values don't add up. So these are actually very, very important conversations to have, but they're conversations. They're like, well, what do you think about that? Wouldn't you think that if Queers for Palestine, it basically means that Palestinians would support the queer community? Well, no, they wouldn't. Why not? Well, look at these facts. So it's one more of the stones that has been unturned, and we need to start working on it. I welcome you to Tel Aviv, by the way. It's completely different in Tel Aviv, Frank.
Yeah, I'd love to go. Love to go.
We'll go together.
And people don't know, and people don't know that. That's another thing. People don't know that Israel, tiny Israel, is the #1 destination in Europe for the gay community once a year. #1, because all are accepted here. So the other question that if I can go to for a second, or maybe Ben, you wanted to speak to what Stephen had mentioned?
Yeah, exactly. Let's give Steve a couple talking points, and then I got a wrap here.
Talking points for the numbers that's coming out of Gaza, or what exact talking points?
He was saying that if he's out in conversation and they're just focusing on the atrocities of Gaza, how to respond, what to say.
I think we need a whole other session for this, but just a few things is, number one, you look at the numbers. The start at 40,000, now it's at 60,000, sometimes it's at 2 million, 186,000. The number of deaths in Gaza. I think we have to be true to ourselves. There are more deaths in Gaza than there is in Israel. We're a much stronger army. We have the Iron Dome, and we are just more advanced than them. I think that one thing you always have to ask is, where did you get that number from? It always ends up being the Hamas Bureau of Statistics, the Gaza Bureau of Statistics, which is Hamas. When you look at the numbers, you have to look at the number of militants, combatants, terrorists, whatever you want to call it, versus the number that civilians that were killed. When you look at the ratio, which is it's between 1 to 1.5, 1.5 to 2 terrorists, you can call them combatants to be nice, to every one civilian in Gaza. It's a number that armies don't achieve.
It's never achieved in human history.
No, I'm not justifying any civilian death. And every civilian death in Gaza, whether it's a woman or a child, or it's sad. I'm not justifying that. But look at the numbers. In other wars, it's one a terrorist for every 4 civilians, 8 civilians, 9 civilians. So I think that's one talking point that I always speak about. Another talking point is about the human shields. You know, the fact that what other army in the world will drop leaflets and send messages and literally call people in that area saying, you need to leave this area because we're going to bomb this area. There's danger here. And then I saw this with my own eyes. Leyb, Hamas is forcing these civilians to stay because it ups the numbers of deaths and they don't care about it. So it's like, and they're not trying to hide it. You have videos of people from Gaza saying we are forced to stay in an area. They're on the phone with the IDF. I know you want to bomb, but we can't move because we're being forced to stay here. You have main talking points, the humanitarian aid. Again, I'm telling you from personal experience, we found storage after storage after storage of aid that was sent from other countries taken by Hamas. Of course, there's a starvation crisis in Gaza. But whose fault is it? Not why is there a crisis, but what led to the crisis. So those are top 3 points. I'm happy to expand, Eitan, if you want to.
We'll share more. Go ahead, Eitan.
I think you summed it up well, and it does require a whole call. What I will say though is, as a strategy, something that works a lot is asking questions. Asking instead of answering. Just if someone asks you a question, like what about the 100,000 people that just on LinkedIn today, and someone wrote in a post, someone that I know who knows someone, 100,000 deaths suddenly. So it's just like, where did you get that number from? That's a simple question. And then they'll say, well, I got it from the news. Or where did they get their number from? Well, then they tell you they got it from Gaza. Okay, well, who in Gaza? The health ministry. And who runs the health ministry? Hamas. So you're quoting numbers from the people that that's just one question. You can ask a lot of questions and you'll see the argument unravel, and then you can hit them with the truth. But again, that's a whole conversation, and that's something that must be taken very, very seriously. Well, I think
his strategy, Eitan's strategy is, it's been used not just in advocacy. There's a book called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. It's called Mirroring. And that's literally the best way. You don't need to know any of the things that I just said. You don't need to have any knowledge about the history or the facts today. If you do what Eitan just said, ask questions and ask questions and ask questions, you'll get them to a point where it's a very simple answer and it's clear that they don't know what they're talking about. That's all you have to do.
Brilliant. Well, we're out of time for today. This will be continued tomorrow if you want to. I'm going to just share our call to action. If you're inspired and want to help, Noy and Eitan each have 501c3 organizations, and should you decide to support, the Altman Family Foundation will match you dollar for dollar. We're trying to raise $180,000, which is a nice number in the Jewish tradition, the 18. So we are, I'll just say that we're 25% there without having even had any of this Frontline series. So it's amazing the support we've received so far. I'll send you a follow-up email with this recording if you wish to share it. And if you'd like to join again tomorrow at 11:30 Central Time to continue the conversation, or have someone you want to invite, please let us know. We'll get them on tomorrow. So with that, we'll conclude. Thank you, Eitan. Thank you, Noy. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. It means so much to us. And Chag Sameach.
Thank you very much, everyone. Ben, to you specifically, and for everything that you've done. You're a real fighter, and we appreciate you, and we appreciate everyone here on this call. Thank you so much for fighting the fight with us. We need a team. We need the teamwork. Thank you.
Chag Sameach, everyone. Appreciate your time. And
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Thank you very much.
Am Yisrael Chai.
Chag Sameach. Am Yisrael Chai.
Yofi.